Okay, think about a brand that wasn't just selling clothes, right? It sold this whole vibe, this lifestyle, shaped an entire era for a generation.
Abercrombie and Fitch. Yeah, hard to forget that period.
Exactly. Now, picture the guy behind it, the former CEO, Mike Jeffries. Once, like, the definition of cool for millions.
A real titan of retail back then.
Right. And now, he's at the absolute center of a federal criminal investigation. We're talking charges that are honestly shocking. They make you question everything about power.
It's a stunning fall from grace, to put it mildly.
So today we're doing a deep dive into this really complex case, the People versus Mike Jeffries.
Our goal is to unpack these allegations, right?
Yeah.
Look at the methods he's accused of using, which sound pretty disturbing.
Yeah, described in sources as an international sex trafficking enterprise. We need to explore that, plus the big recent twist in his trial.
And then zoom out a bit, look at the bigger picture questions this raises.
Yeah.
You know, about corporate responsibility, power structures, justice itself.
We've got some solid sources guiding us. Analyses like Abercrombie scandal, trafficking, power, and corporate accountability, and detailed reporting from Loop Court, Mike Jeffries' sex trafficking trial.
These give a pretty forensic look at the situation. Chilling, really.
Definitely. So we'll pull out the key details from these, trying to make sense of what's really going on here.
So where do we start? The contrast itself is just jarring. Jeffries, the fashion titan, the brand icon, this untouchable image he built. And now he's accused of running, essentially, a sex trafficking operation on an international scale.
It's hard to square those two images.
Right. It immediately makes you ask how. How brazen, how systematic could this alleged enterprise have been? How does someone with that kind of public face operate something like this?
That leap from visionary CEO to facing these kinds of federal charges, it's quite the narrative shift. So let's get right into the specifics, the charges, the people involved.
Okay, so the accused are Mike Jeffries, obviously. Then there's his longtime partner, Matthew Smith, and an associate named James Jacobson. All three were indicted back in October 2024.
And the core charges are federal ones.
Yeah, sex trafficking and interstate prostitution. Serious federal offenses.
And just to clarify, an indictment means...
It means a grand jury looked at the evidence presented by prosecutors and decided there was enough probable cause to formally accuse them and proceed to trial. It's not a finding of guilt, but it's a critical step.
Okay. And the time frame we're talking about?
The indictment specifies a pretty long period, alleged activities from 2008 right through to 2015.
Wow, 7 years.
Yeah. And involving, according to the indictment, at least 15 men as alleged victims. So the scope seems quite significant. Multiple victims, multiple years, crossing state lines.
And initially, their legal status was?
All three pleaded not guilty to the charges, and they were released on bond pending trial.
Okay, so here's where it gets particularly disturbing, I think, because the sources suggest this wasn't just random acts. They describe a whole alleged system.
A method.
Exactly. A method that was kind of woven into the fabric of how things appeared to work, especially using the allure of the fashion world.
Right. The recruitment methods alleged were incredibly deceptive. It wasn't straightforward.
How so?
Well, the sources say the whole alleged trafficking network was disguised as modeling gig opportunities.
Ah, okay. So making it seem legitimate, like a real career path.
Precisely. Leveraging the glamour, the appeal of the fashion industry, which suggests, as you said, a systematically designed operation, not just isolated incidents or, spur-of-the-moment things.
It wasn't just misconduct, it was a method. That phrase from the sources really sticks out.
It does. It implies planning, structure. They talk about structural deception.
What does that mean, structural deception?
It suggests the very way things were set up, the way opportunities were presented, was inherently misleading, designed to lure people in under false pretenses.
And they also mention corporate facilitation. That sounds significant.
It does. It implies that Jeffries' position, his power, derived from Abercrombie, somehow enabled this alleged scheme. Maybe not the company itself knowingly, but his status, his resources, the brand power associated with him.
So using the promise of access, fame, the Abercrombie connection as bait.
Exactly. The sources highlight how Jeffries allegedly used his immense brand power and status to manipulate and exploit people. He's accused of creating what they call an abusive ring.
An abusive ring? Wow.
Yeah. And think about it, an offer for a modeling opportunity coming directly from Mike Jeffries. That would carry huge weight for aspiring models.
Of course. It sounds like the ultimate insider connection.
Right. So it wasn't just about charm, it was about the institutional power he represented. The sources detail how this involved promises of modeling work, yes, but also distributing drugs to alleged victims
Yeah.
and various forms of coercion. And this phrase, deceptive consents,
Deceptive consents. That sounds really sinister. What does that imply?
it suggests that victims might have thought they were agreeing to one thing, maybe a legitimate photo shoot, a networking event, something professional,
Uh-huh.
but were then allegedly manipulated or coerced into non-consensual sexual acts. Maybe they were misled about what would happen. Maybe they were impaired by drugs given to them. Their ability to genuinely consent was compromised or just ignored.
So the deception wasn't just getting them in the door.
Apparently not. The allegation is that it extended to the acts themselves, blurring lines, violating trust. It's about weaponizing their aspirations against them.
That's deeply disturbing.
It really is.
So shifting gears a bit, all of this was heading towards a major trial, but then something big happened recently, right? A pivotal development.
Yes, a really significant turn. Just this past spring, around April or May 2025, a judge made a ruling.
Okay.
The judge ruled Mike Jeffries unfit to stand trial.
Unfit to stand trial. Wow. Okay, what does that mean legally and why?
It's based on medical grounds, serious ones. The ruling cited diagnoses of Alzheimer's disease, Lewy body dementia,
Oh, wow.
and also the lingering effects of a brain injury. These are conditions known to severely impair cognitive function, memory, reasoning, understanding.
So his mental state is the issue.
Exactly. As a result, he's currently hospitalized for a competency evaluation. This is standard procedure. Doctors need to formally assess if he can understand the charges, follow the legal proceedings, and assist his lawyers in his own defense.
Which is a basic requirement for a fair trial.
Absolutely fundamental. So this evaluation puts his direct involvement in the criminal case on hold.
This must create a really difficult situation, balancing the legal process, the need for accountability, with the defendant's actual mental capacity.
It's a huge dilemma,
Okay.
especially in a case with such serious allegations and high public interest.
And what about the other defendants, Matthew Smith and James Jacobson?
That's a key point. The ruling about Jeffries means they now face separate legal paths. Their trials will proceed independently.
So their cases aren't halted?
No, they'll move forward, regardless of Jeffries' competency status.
So Jeffries' deteriorating health acts almost like a legal shield, as some sources put it.
That's one way to frame it. It definitely complicates the pursuit of justice regarding his alleged role. And it potentially sets a precedent. How do courts handle age-related incompetency in these high-profile cases involving powerful individuals accused of serious crimes?
It raises profound questions. If someone is deemed unable to participate in their defense due to cognitive decline, how do you achieve justice for the alleged victims? What does accountability even look like then?
These are incredibly tough ethical and legal questions the system has to grapple with. There are no easy answers.
So, stepping back from the specifics of the trial for a moment, the sources really push us to see this as more than just one person's alleged crimes.
Right. They frame it not just as a criminal trial, but as a potential corporate collapse.
That's a powerful term. What do they mean by that?
Well, it forces a reevaluation of corporate accountability. It asks, how can power structures, especially within big corporations, be misused? How can they facilitate abuse, even if indirectly? It shifts the focus slightly, from just looking at Jeffries' alleged individual actions to examining the broader context. The power he wielded came from his corporate position.
So the question becomes, what responsibility does a company have when a former leader, someone who was the brand, is accused of using that very brand power in an alleged criminal scheme?
Exactly. Even if the company today isn't involved, the legacy, the influence derived from that corporate role is central to the allegations of exploitation. It's a thorny issue.
And the sources also connect this current scandal back to earlier criticisms of Abercrombie, right? During Jeffries' time?
Absolutely. This doesn't exist in a vacuum. People remember the controversies around Abercrombie's image, the hypersexualized ads, the exclusionary look, the reports of a toxic or discriminatory workplace culture.
Yeah, those were definitely major issues.
So these current, much more severe charges kind of amplify those concerns, as one source puts it. They feed into a narrative that maybe there was a pervasive atmosphere where power could be misused, where boundaries were blurred.
It suggests the alleged misconduct might be seen as an extreme, dark extension of a culture that already made a lot of people uncomfortable.
That's certainly an interpretation presented in some analyses, yes. It connects the dots in a disturbing way.
So, looking ahead, what happens now? What's the path forward for accountability?
Well, for Mike Jeffries himself, everything hinges on that competency evaluation.
Right.
If he's ultimately deemed permanently unfit to stand trial, the criminal case against him could be suspended indefinitely, maybe even dismissed. It really depends on the medical findings and the court's final decision.
So his criminal accountability is uncertain.
Very uncertain at this point. It's essentially a waiting game dictated by his medical condition.
But for Matthew Smith and James Jacobson,
Their criminal cases continue. Independently, they will face trial, and the justice system will address the allegations against them separately.
okay. And what about the victims? Is there any other avenue for them?
Yes, and this is crucial. The sources emphasize that possible civil lawsuits remain active.
Ah, so civil court is different from the criminal proceedings.
Completely. Even if Jeffries avoids a criminal trial due to incompetency, alleged victims can still sue him, Smith, Jacobson, potentially others, in civil court.
Seeking what? Damages.
Exactly. Seeking financial compensation for the emotional harm, the exploitation, the damages they suffered. Civil cases have a different burden of proof, preponderance of the evidence, rather than beyond a reasonable doubt, and they focus on redress for the victims.
So that path remains open, regardless of the criminal outcome for Jeffries.
Yes, it's a vital potential pathway for accountability and acknowledgement of harm.
And beyond the legal system?
Well, the case continues to force broader societal conversations about power, abuse, accountability, especially when cognitive decline enters the picture for a powerful figure.
Like the loop court analysis mentioned, looking at the systems that might allow these things to happen.
Right. How do we build systems that prevent abuses of power? And what does justice mean when the usual mechanisms are complicated by something like dementia? It pushes us to think critically about our structures.
So we've covered a lot today. It's a deeply unsettling story. From the alleged systematic methods, this hidden enterprise behind a fashion empire, to the really complex legal and ethical situation created by Jeffries' health ruling.
It forces you to confront some uncomfortable truths about power, how it can corrupt, about corporate responsibility, or the lack thereof sometimes, and just how tangled the pursuit of justice can become.
Yeah. As we wrap up this deep dive, there's a question that some of the sources pose, and it really sticks with you.
What's that?
When a titan's mind crumbles, who stands accountable? And how do we build a system resilient enough to hold them responsible?
That's a powerful thought to end on. A heavy question with no easy answers as this whole story continues to develop.
Definitely something to think about.